first. Now, as I said, you were at the military parade on April the 15th, which was held to honor the 105th anniversary of the birth of Kim Il Sung. What kind of weaponry were on display during the parade, and what impressed you the most?
Other than conventional weaponry systems, I think that like most of the world and everybody in the same shoes, they're watching what kind of the ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, the weaponry system will be shown. The Pyongyang government, as expected, presented the recent newly developed new type of ICBM, the weaponry system, as everybody had watched on TV or like me sitting there in front of the military parade. My impression, unlike most other the Western or the global the observation, I rather became calm and began to bring up more fashioned idea about the 70 years long the DPRK USA or the US-Korea confrontation history might most likely come to an end within not too far down the road.
What is the reason behind your statement just now? Why do you think that is possible?
The Trump administration, even if it's still struggling with its own administration to figure out what to do with the DPRK or with Syria or the Russia or China, it seems they are now ready to present what they have in mind. They call it maximum the pressure and engagement. I would rather focus on the rather part of the policy, quote unquote, engagement policy. There are only two options left in US and Korea relations, which is the one, war, and the other is a peace. If not the war, as Tillerson and the Trump and everybody in the US administration at the moment, the emphasizing, including the National Security Advisor, McMaster, there won't be any military action or military option is not on the table. Then what? The peace.
Ms. Bell, let me come to you. What is your reaction to what Mr. Chung had just said? Is that your observation from Washington, D.C. as well?
First, thanks so much for having me. I do agree that we hope to find a diplomatic solution to the issue on North Korea. North Korea has continually moved forward to develop a nuclear weapons capability and long-range delivery capabilities. That presents a threat to the region and a threat to the world. The best thing to do now is to enforce and implement the sanctions that are in place, and China, the United States, and the international community should be looking for diplomatic and economic pressures that can bring North Korea back to the negotiating table to roll back and then dismantle its nuclear weapons program.
Professor Chung, how do you look at the DPRK's assertion that it needs nuclear weapons when it already possesses a lot of conventional weapons and sometimes quite advanced one? With Seoul, for instance, so close by, Pyongyang could already make a huge amount of damage with these conventional weapons.
Mike Whitney, well-known economist, now residing in the state of Washington, well-known writer around the world, the last 3-4 days, two most recent articles. The article title was "The Problem is Washington, not North Korea." The next day he came up with the article, "The U.S. pushed North Korea develop the nukes, yes or no?" And I think that even the U.S. government now, the Trump administration, starting from the Trump, the Tillerson, at McMaster, and the James Mattis and the top leadership acknowledged, no matter what the U.S. has done the last 30 some years, everything has failed. And again, back to the point, the issue of the peace. What the message the DPRK leadership sent to the Washington was, let's sit and find a way to bring about the peace regime, meaning concluding the peace treaty by replacing the armistice agreement, which has not been concluded until this day for 64 years. I think the time is coming that the Northeast Asia and the Korean Peninsula may face a new wave of the dialogue and engagement rather than the fighting or the conflict or the threatening with the nuclear weapons, etc.
Ms. Bell, we haven't really heard the Trump administration talk so much about this aspect of things, that is the peace mechanism, or how to come up with a peace treaty to formally end the Korean War, which is only kind of stalled by an armistice agreement. What is the kind of discussion going on in Washington, D.C. concerning this aspect, if there is at all?
Not a lot at this point, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that President Trump has yet to fill out a leadership team on national security in the Departments of Defense or Departments of State. We do not have ambassadors in South Korea or Japan or China as of yet, and I think that kind of a discussion can only happen with a full national security team in place.
Do you think that is a very important piece of the puzzle in order to achieve the goal of denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula?
Absolutely. The hard technical work that would have to go into any sort of agreement with the North Koreans is going to be done by the Department of State, by the Department of Defense. You need experts in place, and you need leaders directing those experts who have a clear and consistent idea of what the U.S. goal is.
Professor Chung, go ahead. You wanted to add.
The issue is very simple. If and when U.S. stops its aggressive or the DPRK policy as it has kept the last 70 years, then the peace will arrive. The DPRK, through their military parade, as I believe it, as their political message, no matter what you have done to us, or no matter what you have done, including economic sanctions, the military, the nuclear, the war threats, it hasn't worked out. And now only two options on the table, war or peace. What I said in the beginning, I believe the U.S. is about to ready. As of yesterday, the Leon Panetta and the William Perry and all the previous, the State Department, the Pentagon and the CIA major figures all called for dialogue and engagement, not anymore the war talk, warmongering, the acts from the Washington.
Well, that would be good if that is the message. However, we are also hearing, for instance, on Wednesday, the U.S. Secretary of State Tillerson said that the U.S. was considering relisting the DPRK as a state sponsor of terrorism. Ms. Bell, why do you think Tillerson came out to make this kind of a speech, and what difference do you think it would make in practice if the DPRK is indeed relisted as such?
I don't think that would do anything to help the situation. It's unclear why that was a focus point when our top concern should be the continued missile testing and nuclear weapons testing. It's important to remember that North Korea is the only country in the world in this century that has been testing nuclear weapons. The question is why. I agree that we should be looking for diplomatic solutions, but that also involves North Korea stopping aggressive posturing and testing programs.
They say the same thing. If U.S. stops its aggressive and very the direct threat, even the decapitation of the leadership of the North, with the throughout the year, the very aggressive nuclear war games within the Korean Peninsula will not help
the
situation
stalemate.
ever.
So it's a stalemate we're looking at. Yeah, what could possibly be the way out?
On the question of the sponsor of terrorism,
yes,
I like the question, whom call the sponsor of terrorism? Even Trump, even the former, the Michael, the Flint, the former, the security advisor who was already ousted from the position, they questioned who was behind the Islamic State. And the Trump and the Michael Flint, challenged, it was Obama and Hillary was behind. I mean, whom you are the sponsor of terrorism. So we need to actually go back to the major real issues, not creating any more the confusion and the demonizing of a state, the independent country who only crime they have done, the DPRK, to the US and the world is to challenge American power. That's the only crime they have done last 60-some years.
Ms. Bell, do you want to really quickly respond to that? But yeah, 20 seconds if you want.
Well, again, I think we should remember that North Korea was a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It took obligations onto itself to not develop a nuclear weapons capability, and then it abandoned that commitment to the international community. So I don't think that North Korea has no blame in the situation that exists. I do agree that all parties should be looking to de-escalate the tensions and look for ways to get back to the negotiating table.
Yes. Sure, in Chinese we say it took two hands to make a clap, right? At this moment, it also took efforts from all sides to de-escalate the situation. Thank you very much, Alexandra Bell, joining us from Washington, D.C., and Mr. Chung Kiyul joining us from Beijing.